statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
Welcome traders. Welcome Bitcoiners. Welcome supporters. Welcome haters. Welcome followers. Welcome everyone. Guys, I just want to make sure that I'm coming across okay. My voice is sounding a bit weird here. I'm hoping that all is okay. Not quite sure if my voice is coming across okay. I believe it is. But welcome, guys. Welcome to another live space with Oliver Velez. My name is Oliver Velez, of course, and I'm your Bitcoiner for life, or at least that's what I want to be. That's what I'm trying to be. Nothing wrong with that. I'm also your 13%er, your 13%er Bitcoiner. There's no need for me to explain what that is. I've explained what a 13%er is over and over again. If that is something that you're curious about, or you want to understand what a 13%er is, you can listen to any of my prior podcasts. That podcast is called Bitcoin Unleashed. It is on all other podcasting programs. I can also provide a link in this spaces that will give you a brief synopsis of what a 13%er is. You just let me know if you think you need that. I'll do that anyway after the spaces. But I wanted to briefly touch base with you once again on a topic that I think is very important for all Bitcoiners or all people who even are thinking about becoming a Bitcoiner or adopting the most innovative technology the world has ever been exposed to. And it is on the topic of Bitcoin and how it fixes almost everything. And I want to specifically talk about two ways in which I believe Bitcoin fixes almost everything. And I'm sure most people who have been in the Bitcoin space or been perusing around the Bitcoin community for any brief, even a brief period of time, I'm sure that most people have come across this meme, for lack of a better term, that Bitcoin fixes everything. And while I won't go as far as saying that it fixes every single thing um, that the human experience touches or will touch going forward, I do believe that it goes a very long way or will go a very long way toward fixing most of what the human experience encounters now and into the future. And I want to touch upon that. But the two things in particular that I want to touch upon is how I believe Bitcoin will explode productivity in the future for not only individuals, but for the world at large. And just as interestingly, I'd like to talk about how I believe Bitcoin practically eliminates crime. Will it, in my opinion, eliminate all crime? No. Crimes of passion, it will not eliminate. But crimes of passion, as vitriolic as they are, and as heinous as they are, um, I do believe that those crimes are smaller in number, at least, than all the other crimes that tend to stem from a corrupt system, a a system that is fundamentally based on corrupt money. I think that most crimes in the world are financially motivated, and it is those crimes that I believe that Bitcoin practically over time will eliminate. And I don't want to keep you long. I want to try to keep these spaces a lot shorter than I have in the past. But let's talk about that. And for the benefit of those who are experiencing a talk from me for the first time, I think it's important for you to understand that in these spaces, I do not pass the mic. That is something that I perhaps might do in the future. But I find that with my style or my approach of delivering um, my information, my knowledge, my passion, I think that my style lends it better to me just sort of giving you a monologue and having you comment along the way in that monologue or to ask questions regarding that monologue after. All right. I'm not much of a banterer. I believe that most talks spend or waste a lot of people's time talking about things that are not deeply or directly connected to the topic. And I like to sort of dive right into the topic right away. All right, so that's what we're going to do here today. So, the title of my talk here is Why Bitcoin Will Drive Productivity and Eliminate Most Crime. And um, I want to say right off the bat that I believe that Bitcoin cannot reach its full potential unless it is actually self custodied and held as an asset by human beings, not indirectly through a Bitcoin spot ETF or through some other derivative or even through an IOU with their Bitcoin held on a centralized exchange. I'm not talking, when I speak about Bitcoin in its true form, I am not talking about this indirect exposure to the asset itself. I'm specifically talking about true Bitcoin, real Bitcoin. And I do not consider real Bitcoin indirect exposure to it. Real Bitcoin is self custodied Bitcoin. Bitcoin, to me, and all of its benefits accrue to those who actually hold the hard asset themselves. And in a very real sense, Bitcoin is nothing more than 12 words. You see, because Bitcoin lives in the digital realm as a form of scarcity, it does not have a location. You can't point to Bitcoin, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. In many respects, it shares the qualities of God. And I'm not saying that Bitcoin is God, I'm saying that it shares many of the qualities of God, meaning that um, it is something that is real and something that, but yet something that does not exist in the physical realm. You can't touch it, you can't feel it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it. Um, and so, in a sense, Bitcoin is literally your 12 words, your 12 to 24 words, your secret. Bitcoin is your secret. And because of this, because it lives in the digital realm, and because Bitcoin is truly language or words, Bitcoin cannot be confiscated. Because Bitcoin is literally your 12 to 24 words, it cannot be truly stolen unless you're very irresponsible with your word. And human beings should not be irresponsible with their word. Your Bitcoin cannot be manipulated. It cannot be used against you. It cannot be taken. It cannot be stolen. It cannot be confiscated, assuming that you have done the right thing with your secret, with your word, with your value, with your worth, with what you are, who you are. As long as you've been responsible with that, it is impossible to be taken. It is impossible to be stolen or confiscated. Now, you can be forced to give up your secret, your words, but still, at the end of the day, that forcing will still require your acquiescence. It will require your choice to give it up. You could be tortured for it, but even in that torturing, at some point, if you give up your words, it is still your choice. If you choose to die, your Bitcoin dies with you. or doesn't die with you, but it is still unavailable. And so it is through self custody of Bitcoin that the ownership of your word that makes Bitcoin invincible, that makes it unconfiscatable, that makes it impossible to steal or to take by force. And for the first time, human beings have the ability to have something of value that is solely theirs. For the first time in the human experience, human beings have access to something of value that cannot be taken by another man, that cannot be stolen by another human being, that cannot be confiscated or manipulated or eroded or debased in any way by another human being. For the first time, Bitcoiners, traders, followers, supporters, haters, for the first time in the human experience, your word is truly your bond. And this, I think, is a very important inflection point for the human species because throughout most of it, we have been forced to trust our value by giving it away to someone else. We've been forced to trust someone else to custody what we consider to be valuable. We have had to rely on other human beings to safeguard it as if we were incapable of safeguarding our own worth, our own value. And so Bitcoin eliminates the need for that trust and places the responsibility where it belongs. The responsibility for who you are, what you work for, what your worth is, your true value as a human being, taking up space and soaking up resources on this planet. That that worth, I lost my thought there for a second, but that worth is solely your responsibility to keep. And this notion that you can't keep it, this notion that you don't trust yourself, this feeling or belief that you need another man to hold on to it for you, lest you mess it up, is really something that comes from being enslaved for so long, being conditioned and tricked into this belief that I need master to hold it for me, that can't, I can't protect my own worth, that I need a group of men to do it for me, that I need my rulers to do it for me, I need my Lord to do it for me, I need my government to do it for me. I cannot protect myself. I cannot secure what is mine. Excuse me. And so I need to trust another man to do it. Bitcoin has come into existence to eliminate that and place that responsibility on you. And that is where it should have always been. And that is where it belongs. Now, you don't accrue freedom from Bitcoin, freedom from this slavery, freedom from the need to trust another man to work for another man's coupon, another man's peso, another man's dollar, another man's yen. No matter how beautiful the pictures are that they paint on those coupons, the freedom to not have to work for their coupon does not come to someone who just has exposure to Bitcoin. It only comes to those who actually take full responsibility for their Bitcoin, their secret, their worth, their value, their words. For the first time, your word is your bond. And so this is at the crux of my talk today because it is at the foundation of how Bitcoin is going to explode productivity, raise the value that humans produce, and eliminate crime and the need for such, it is going to be through self-custody of the asset itself, self-custody of Bitcoin. And how is self-custody going to accomplish this? Let's talk about this for a moment. I'm taking a sip of my tea here. If Bitcoin cannot be stolen, meaning that if as long as you've secured your secret, your words, and therefore it cannot be taken, it means that in order for someone else to get Bitcoin from you, they are going to have to come to you correctly. In order for you to release Bitcoin to another human being is going to have to deliver something that you truly desire, something that you want. And because of the scarcity of this thing called Bitcoin that you will be releasing, because it is mathematically designed to go up in value forever, not only throughout your entire lifetimes, but the lifetimes of family members in your bloodline who haven't even been born yet. Because of this, you're going to have to be pleased with someone that has given you something that you want so badly, something that you value so highly that you're willing to take the opportunity risk of giving them this thing in exchange for what they're offering. It's going to have to be so great that you're willing to give up all the future potential gains. And so my point is this, that people are going to only release Bitcoin when they have something spectacular. People are only going to let it go if others come to them correctly. That in order for you to get someone else to give up their Bitcoin to you, your service is going to have to be no less than divine. In order for you to get someone else to release their Bitcoin to you, your product is going to have to be the absolute best. In order for someone to give up their Bitcoin to you, you're going to have to create something or provide something that is so sublime, that is so amazing, that is so near perfection that that's going to be the only way that others will release their Bitcoin to you. Now, I do understand that as more and more people use Bitcoin as a store of value, others will start to demand Bitcoin for all of their services. I actually do this for a number of my services. There are a set number of services that I will not accept US dollars for or any other paper currency floating around in the world today. The only thing I will accept for it is Bitcoin. And if you don't have Bitcoin to give me for those services, then you can hit the road, Jack. Now, more and more people will start to do that as the price and the value of Bitcoin rises, as it becomes more and more adopted by the world, as more and more people are guaranteed to have some level of Bitcoin in their life. More and more people are going to start demanding Bitcoin for what they do. But I am telling you that their expertise is going to have to be upped. Their level of first classness, for lack of a better term, is going to have to be extraordinarily high. And so this is how I believe Bitcoin causes every human being to have to go back to the drawing board and find out a way to deliver the best, because only the best are going to actually get the Bitcoin. Only the sublime is going to get the Bitcoin. Only the near perfect is going to get the Bitcoin. And if you are not that, you will not get the Bitcoin. And so companies will no longer be able to churn out pieces of junk and sell them anyway. Inferior products will go unbought in a Bitcoinized society, in a Bitcoinized world. Inferior products, low quality service will not be tolerated in a Bitcoinized society, because only the best will get the Bitcoin. Only the sublime will get the Bitcoin. Only the near divine will get the Bitcoin. Only the near perfect will get the Bitcoin. And if you can't provide something that's close to perfection, if you can't provide the sublime in whatever skill that you claim is yours, if someone can do it better, far better than you, they are going to get the Bitcoin, and you are going to be Bitcoin less in a Bitcoinized world. And so this is going to force every human being, every organization, every corporation, every entity, every living thing that provides something to the global community, it is going to force them to do it at their best. No more slacking will be allowed. No more half-assing it will make it. No more selling trinkets that are poorly made and clothing that falls apart after the third time you've worn it. None of this is going to last or survive in a Bitcoinized society. Everyone is going to have to up their game. Everyone. And so productivity is going to explode. The need, the reason why junk can be sold today, the reason why inferiority can still be a business today, is because the money is broken. Because if you hold on to the money that you give your life for today, if you hold on to it long enough, the money that you've given your life today will actually dwindle on you. It will melt on you like a freaking ice cube. And so you are compelled and forced, in many ways, not consciously, but unconsciously, you are forced to give it up anyway. You might as well throw it up in the air, because if you don't, you're really still throwing your money up into the air. A dollar today, 10 years ago, a dollar earned today will not buy you a dollar's worth of goods in the year 2032 or 2033, 10 years from now. The same way a dollar in 2000 will not buy you the same goods that it bought today at the face value of a dollar, and a dollar in 1973 that you gave your life to earn, your life, your time, your energy, your effort, your skill, your knowledge, your education, you gave that to another man. You gave that to society. And in exchange for giving that to another man, to society, to a corporation, to an organization, to another human being, you received a dollar in exchange for that life that you gave. And if you held on to that dollar from 1973, if you were born back then, if you were alive back then, that dollar purchased far more in 1973 than it does today. The dollar that someone earned or saved in the year 1913 is not the same dollar that you earn today. It buys 99.6% less than it did in 1913. And so Because of that broken system, because we have been duped and tricked, compelled, coerced, and forced to give up our life force for a coupon called the dollar, the peso, the yen, the euro, whatever, because it debases on us, because we're not in control of its supply, because it dwindles in value, we are actually conditioned to spend it now. It doesn't matter that we spend it on something of true value or not. It doesn't really matter, because if we don't find something of value to spend it on, to use it for, it will still be almost like we spent it, because it erodes in value. It dwindles in value. It melts like a freaking ice cube. And whether someone is conscious of this or not, because most people aren't, they're not conscious that the dollars in their pocket or under their mattress or supposedly sitting in a bank, and we know that's false, but the dollars that you claim that are yours sitting around not being used for anything today, they are melting. And if those digits, if the digits on the dollars in your pockets actually moved, you would be more conscious of the fact that my dollars are melting. If the dollar you inserted in your pocket, in your jeans pocket, all of a sudden became 95 cents, and you pulled the dollar out of your pocket, and it was a dollar when you put it in, but when you pulled it out, it now reads 95 cents. You would get the message consciously. And if you put it back in your pocket and the next time you pull the dollar out, it read 80 cents, and then 75 cents, and then 60 cents, and then 45 cents, you would get the message. You would get the message consciously. But the digits on the paper don't change, just the intrinsic value of the paper changes. And this is the trick. But still, despite the fact that people aren't aware that the numbers on their bills are actually changing, despite the fact that they're not consciously aware of it, they are conditioned to be irresponsible with it, to not save it. They're taught through society to spend it, to do something with it, because unconsciously it cannot not be known or felt that I'm losing if I don't use it. In a Bitcoinized world, this is the exact opposite, that the longer you hold it, the more valuable it becomes. The more you don't do with it, the higher in value it becomes. So everything moves the opposite way, that unconsciously, and for some people consciously, the sense that I should not let this go starts to take hold. And that the only reason for me to let it go is if something wonderful gets presented to me. Something that I am in love with so much, that I adore so much, that I value so much, that I am willing to sacrifice all the future gains and benefits that come from this being held. Now, there are points in society or points in the human evolutionary path. There are points in history where human beings were operated more on a system like that, that they operated where in a realm where in which time rewarded them instead of hurting them. And during these periods of time throughout history, some of the greatest works in productivity in the human species occurred. Some of the greatest cathedrals were built over hundreds of years. Families dedicated their lives from one generation to the next to build a single structure. And why was this the case? It was the case because there was no need, or there was less of a need, I should say, during these brief periods of time in the human experience to have to end something right away, to have to get the reward right away. If you knew that all the value that you have stored today was only going to go up, what would your future be like? How much more careful would you be to let that value go? How reluctant would you be to buy a purse with another man's name on it for $10,000? Would you be less reluctant to do that when you know that the $10,000 worth of value you give up for some purse that you're going to use for a few months and toss it in the in the closet? Wouldn't you be less wouldn't you be more reluctant to spend that $10,000 on something like that, knowing that that could be $1 million in value later? Frivolous spending will stop, and time will reward the reluctant. Time will reward those who are more careful. Time will reward quality and not inferiority. Now, let me get back to how this helps to almost eliminate all financial crime. If my value can no longer be stolen and can only be earned, then the financial criminal must become an earner. The financial criminal must find a way to deliver value to those that he or she used to rob. If governments can no longer confiscate from its citizens, can no longer exercise the activity of theft on their citizenry, governments, in order to get Bitcoin from their citizens, will have to deliver extraordinary value to their citizens. Criminals will not be able to steal 12 words if they are custodied correctly. All of this depends on custodying Bitcoin properly, protecting your 12 words. Imagine a world in the future, not the distant future. I'm talking over the next several years. Imagine the security of Bitcoin becoming so high that it is virtually impossible to take it from another human being, ever. Imagine security for Bitcoin is not going to go the other way. It's actually only going to improve. It's going to get better. Bitcoin is already the most secure network the world has ever had access to, the world has ever known. And it's only going to get better. It's still a baby. Its security is going to improve. The ability to steal it is going to be squashed out to 100%, unless you're just silly with it, unless you just put your 12 words on a billboard in Times Square, Manhattan. No one's going to be able to steal it. No one's going to be able to take it. What if, imagine a world where in order to take someone's Bitcoin, you have to travel to 3 different countries? Imagine a world like that. Imagine a world where the custody is so tight and so sure that every person in the world knows you can't steal this. I can't take this. They're going to have to work. I believe that properly custodied Bitcoin will squash out financial crime. And I know a lot of people may want to talk to, well, Oliver, what about the hackers and things of that nature? No, Hacking Bitcoin is already virtually impossible. The only times that Bitcoin is hacked is not because of Bitcoin, it's from user error. It's from being unknowledgeable because we're early. It's from custodying it wrong. It's from being irresponsible. But the day is coming where all of that goes away. The day is coming where no one has to even think about security. No one has to even think about the possibility of being hacked. It's going to be built into everything that makes Bitcoin just simply unstealable, unhackable, untakeable, even with your irresponsibility.